It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, 30 minutes of time-wasting fun. I'm putting an asterisk beside 30 minutes because I just heard this morning that I don't know that we've produced a 30-minute show in a few months because we're breaking all the rules now, man. It's I'm just going to talk as long as I need to talk to get the point across. And you know what's interesting is that I've realized that since I've been interacting with a lot of you on a regular basis, you know, I'll have, we'll have the discussion topic, let's say today, and then you're listening to this today, and then you'll email me tomorrow or tonight or whatever it is. And then you'll tell me to check out something because, you know, I've talked about YouTube people and TikTok people, and then we've had those discussions about restaurants. And so now that I've told you that I've never spent any time on TikTok, but I am kind of getting into watching people's YouTube channels, you're sending ones that, you know, that you watch or that you like or that, you know, talk about the same thing that I was just talking about and other people's takes. And so one of the things that I mentioned a few weeks ago, or maybe even a couple months ago, was about dating and how people are using social media for, you know, dating as a platform, right, to meet somebody. And I said one of the major turnoffs or red flags would be, for me, and again, I've never used a dating app or whatever. I'm, you know, married, we've been together like 10 years. So one of the things that would be a real turnoff for me is if I go to the guy's page and let's say he's, you know, crazy hot, right? You know, just amazing body, you know, fun personality, whatever. And then I see a Venmo link in the profile, like to send him money or donation. I'd be like, yeah, no, don't need no broke ass man. And so one of the things that I mentioned was, I kind of wondered, is that sort of the new thing where people just have no shame and just expect people to give them money? Now, I first saw it because somebody on my, I think it was Facebook. Yeah, because Facebook is where you post more texty kind of things. So somebody had texted or posted in text that, you know, oh, it's my birthday, whatever. Here's my Venmo, which this was maybe a few years ago. Now, I didn't know what Venmo was. Because I own a business and we have, you know, just regular credit cards and we pay bills normally. And I've never been in a situation where I've had to send an individual money like that. And if I did, or if I had to, it would be like PayPal. That's always just kind of the one that I know. So it wasn't until I saw that post that I found out what Venmo was. And, I thought it strange because that's essentially just somebody saying, it's my birthday, give me money. And then that was when I noticed it on Instagram where people can, you know, you put your links or whatever in your profile. And so I would see links to Venmo when I would go and scroll. And I did this from our business, like our company pages that we have. So like followers or whatever, I would click on their pages. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And this is where I came up with that whole, like, the guy was hot kind of a thing. I thought, wow, that's, you know, how is that not embarrassing? Because generally, as I know from having a fitness model bodybuilding husband, that you want to put the best possible image forward, and begging for money would not be a hot characteristic, I would think. But I'm in my 40s, and I'm very different than the generation that's really into TikTok. I mean, I guess there's people into their 40s or whatever on TikTok. But anyway, so this episode is about people essentially begging, wanting handouts, panhandling, I called it when I mentioned it the first time, panhandling on social media. So this came about, I guess we're circling back around to it because I've mentioned it before, but you, great listeners, are sending me information because I haven't gone on TikTok. So you've sent me compilation videos or whatever. And I can't. As a grown-up who pays his own bills, okay. You know, so we'll get into it on the Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Let me start out by saying that I realize that most people, or many people, will go through some kind of financial hardship in their life. And I did too. And again, this is something that I did. I mentioned it on the show, that I did have to go on social assistance, or whatever you want to call it, for about 2 weeks, I think it was. And this was when I was just starting out, like very beginning, starting out in my career. And I had quit a job, thought I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to start my own business. This is going to take off. And the money doesn't come in, on day one, as you might think as a writer. So it's not that I was living beyond my means. I just did not have another source of income. And so as a writer, it's not like you have a crazy amount of expenses. It's not like I went and, rented office space and hired people and whatever. So it was very, very minimal. And, you can only ride that out for so long, right? Before you kind of run out of your savings, or you kind of, and I owned a house at the time, and I had at least one dog. I don't remember if I had 2 dogs or just the one. But it became a struggle. And I remember having to ask my brother. We went to Costco one day, and that was kind of when I confessed him. I said, are you able to buy me just a box of granola bars? And it was $7. And that was when I kind of explained to him, that it was a pretty scary time. And so I bit the bullet and I got a job, right? Because that was something that I just, I've got a house, I've got, an animal to feed, and I, it was embarrassing, right? Because you kind of have this pride of, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And like I said, we're going back, maybe almost 20 years ago. And it was embarrassing because, like I said, I left a job. I left a really good paying job to start my company. So, when you're checking in with your former coworkers, right, you're staying in touch, wanting to know how things are going, you have to put this one image forward. But the reality was, it was a struggle. And you don't tell anybody that, right? Because there's a bit of pride, right? You have an ego not an ego, but there's pride. You want to save face. You don't want to make it look like this was a shitty decision and, I'm going to have to come crawling back to my job. So I've gone through the financial thing. I get it. And that's, but like I said, it was just embarrassing even I didn't ask my brother directly for money. This was just, hey, can you cover a box of food for me? So I would never, again, I would much rather, I'll take a shitty ass job in, fast food or retail or some whatever, greeter at a grocery store. I don't even know if they do that anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. Rather than ask somebody that I know for money. I just can't, let alone strangers. That would be even more embarrassing. So one of the things that I was talking about before was people doing this, Venmo link, or here's my PayPal link, send me money. And it's really for absolutely no reason at all. It's just kind of there. And so I wondered, when I was talking about it on the show, do people just okay, so I'm scrolling and I see John Smith's profile. Okay, fine, whatever. And I click on his link, or I click on whatever, and I see there's a Venmo. So do I, Jeremy, the viewer, do I just go and say, I'll just give John $20? Yeah, why not? Yeah, okay, yeah. I just hand out. I think that's the equivalent of just going up to somebody in the mall and handing them a $20 bill. Okay. Now, is John hot and showing a bunch of skin pictures and, kind of using his body? And then is that considered a tip, quote unquote, tipping him? Is that, you're contributing, you're making a donation? Because it's still, that's the equivalent now of having a can or a glass or a hat and people throwing dollar bills into it, or change as they walk by. Would we see John Smith, the, ripped guy on the beach, would we see him doing that on a street corner? somehow online, right? In the digital realm, it's easier. I don't know how it's less embarrassing, right? I mean, John would probably never want to be seen out in his own city doing that. But I mean, there's obviously, he's going to have friends on social media that are where he lives, right? That would see it. But again, it brings up the question, though, is that commonplace in that generation or in those social circles that is acceptable, right? Because people are doing it. So, all right, well, So one of the things, though, that I got from a listener last week after I talked about YouTubers and TikTokers or whatever, and then the person had also listened to that show the other week when I was talking about Venmo links and whatever and profiles. So that there are actually people that do this in video form. So it's combining basically all the things that we've been talking about over the last few weeks, right? YouTubers and TikTokers begging, with Venmo links or whatever. Well, lo and behold, that's actually a thing, right? Just like before they used to say there's an app for everything. Now there's a YouTube channel for everything. Now there's a TikTok page for everything. Or is it a TikTok page or TikTok channel? I don't even know what it's called. Never been on it. So I got a bunch of links to, the irony is that it's compilation videos on YouTube about TikTok people. So again, that full circle moment. And here are people. Now, I'm not stereotyping or generalizing. I'm giving you facts based on what I saw. It's people from the South. They have very few teeth. Their requests are basically demands, and it's very aggressive as well. It's very aggressive in the ask. So I'm going to talk about that. Have you seen it? So just set up an email, start typing it during the break, and then we'll be back, right? So the email address, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. Don't send me your Venmo link, because you'll probably just get a fucking nasty response back. And we will return on the Scribble right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
JB here on the Scribble. All right, so online panhandlers. That's what I coined as a term a couple weeks ago, and now you have shown me the receipts that this is even more prevalent than I thought. As I mentioned, I thought it was just a link. It was a very indirect ask, right? It wasn't a hard sell. It wasn't a hard push. It was just a discreet kind of just have the link there. If somebody sends money, wonderful. I'm actually tempted to message some of those people and just go, let me just ask you, in the past month, in the past 6 months, in the past year, how much have you, what's the profit on this? What's the, how many, what's the average gift? Is it called a gift, a donation? Because again, I see this too, where people who, it looks like it's a professional profile, right? Do, personal training with me or whatever. And then I see a Venmo link. So I'm like, wait a second, is this a business or is this a charity? I'm not quite getting it. So to me, what that says is you're not as good a business person as you think. You're not making as much money doing this personal training or whatever as you think. And I felt the same way when I started doing my radio shows. When I was on radio stations, my show, I kind of did it separately. We packaged it in our own office and then we, pushed it out to stations. When stations had donation links, I always just thought, it shows that you don't have good business sense. It shows that you're and I didn't want to be part of that. I would never put a donation link on any of our websites, even if we weren't making money. I was going to find a way to make money and not just have to, maybe you do that as a subscription now after, when people are starting to do that, because they're paying for something and then they're getting your content. Okay, fine. That's different. Right? No different than when you're writing for a newspaper. People buy the newspaper and it's, so there's an exchange there of but they're getting something for the money. It's not that they're just giving you money for absolutely nothing. So, so there's these people who do TikTok videos and it's late at night from what I gather on some of these people. And it's that they just set up the phone or whatever, tablet or however they're live streaming, and they either have a goal, we just need $125 tonight. So they've already got this benchmark for what they're wanting. So it is, in a sense, almost like a GoFundMe page. And even those are getting a little bit ridiculous, but maybe that's a story for another day. So it starts out, we just need to get some, groceries and, till Friday we don't have. And here's the thing. I'm not making fun of people who are hard up for money to buy groceries. That's not my point at all. My point is the panhandling, because there's social assistance programs. There's a way that you can, do it, but this is just the easy way, right? This is tax-free. This is just kind of, underneath the table, and you just get the, get the cash, and you can buy whatever the hell you want. So, just need groceries, you're not paid until Friday or whatever. And then you look and they're, drinking. It could be, beer or, bottles of Coke or something. And you kind of look at that and go, well, water would be cheaper, so you kind of look at it and see how they're probably mismanaging their money anyway. And secondly, you always have to take it with a grain of salt. Are they really going to use that money for groceries? Really? But so they ask for it. So let's say the live stream starts at 9:00. Let's just say, Betty Jo Sue comes on, and she's got her, 4 kids and 3 teeth, and she's sitting there. She sets it up, and she's, y'all, we just need to get 125 now. Yeah, we just need to get 125. That's all we need. It's just 125. So it kind of starts out pleasant, right? She's kind of, here we go. Let's start the show. And then, so it's 9:00, right? And so 9:05, nothing's really coming in. So now she's kind of going in a little bit harder on the plea. So now it's like, you got to get, groceries and, all like, and Betty Sue Jean Bob needs new shoes, and, those are going to be at least, $80. And my old man, he ain't working now. So, we got to do that. And, we don't need no dental work 'cause we ain't got no teeth. So can't do that. And now by 9:10, there's really nothing coming in. So now she gets a little bit aggressive. This Betty Jo, what did I call her? I don't remember what the name was. But now she's gonna start yelling like, all we need. I was just asking. Like making it. And so she's getting angry as though, like she's asking too much of you, I only need $125. How dare you not give me $125? You're a terrible person for not giving me $125. And I don't know how that works. Like, that doesn't work on me. Sorry, it doesn't. So now you're gonna start hurling insults at me. You're gonna I'm the bad person. And does that drive, I was going to use the word sales. Does that drive sales? Does that drive the income, revenue, donations, gifts? Is that a good tactic? Does that work? Because it wouldn't work for me. So it was funny to watch the different, the spectrum, if you will. So you have this one who kind of gets aggressive. And then there was a guy. What was he wanting? Shoot, he was talking about freezing. What was his thing? Oh God, I don't remember. He needed money because then he said something. It was only $5.06 that somebody gave him. And then PayPal takes 2 weeks. And so you have to give it now. And it's not begging because you don't want to freeze. He needed the money for, what was it? Oh my God, I can't remember. Shit. It was him and a girlfriend or somebody. I don't want to freeze. There was they were staying in a motel. I don't know the full story. I didn't. So the thing was that I wasn't watching the actual live streams, right? I was watching somebody who compiled a bunch of them and was commenting on them. So that's what I saw. So I didn't get the full stories on all these. So let me just be clear on that. But anyway, so yeah, that's right. So he was pissed that he only got $5.06 or something from somebody. And then he's basically angry because he's going to freeze and you, the viewer, are not giving him money as though it's your fault and your problem. And so again, just this rage, this expectation that because I'm on here, And I'm thinking again, at least disguise yourself. Like, at least, change your face or something. But don't, like, it's just so. I'd be embarrassed if that was my family member sitting there doing that, and I would probably message them on the side and go, "Get a fucking job, you loser." Seriously, that is not how you were raised. I can say that confidently, by the way, in my family. I can say that none of my cousins and, no, the families were very much, the parents worked, I started working when I was 13 years old out of the lake, and I've worked ever since, and, retiring from my radio show at 39, but look I'm still doing the show and still writing things and still doing stuff. But never did we. And even my brothers had jobs as teenagers. This was not something that you were just expecting. One brother worked at Burger King, another worked at A&W, the other one and then they had jobs in like Safeway and other things when they were teenagers. One worked at a video store. I'm just trying to think of when they were teenagers. Yeah, it was not handouts. Now again, you have to remember we didn't have social media to panhandle like that. But again, like I said, that's the equivalent of that'd be like sitting in school and having a jar on your desk and just expecting people to go through and put money. So this also kind of ties into that whole tipping culture thing, maybe because everybody is just expecting money for, doing your job or whatever. Now, because you're going to go on to social media and just say, I need money, give it to me, that, you just assume that people are going to do that. So I don't know how much of it is actually mishandling money or if it's just, it just give me money, right? I don't know the background story if these people do work and this is, they've lived beyond their means. Now, am I generalizing and stereotyping by say that these are all Southern people? Well, that was the compilation that I saw. They certainly were not, they didn't have the best grammar. They didn't have the best hygiene. They didn't have the best physical demeanor. That's the most PC way I can say of being fat. And, and again, this is, it sounds like I'm judging them or whatever, but you have to realize that when you do something like that, yeah, you're kind of going to be judged. And whether that's right or wrong, I mean, it's the image that you are putting forward. Like I said, I'm not bashing them that they're broke and their kids are starving. I'm bashing their antics or their, actions of what they're doing. That's what I'm thrashing, if you will. Yes, it's terrible if, your daughter has cancer or whatever, and that's expensive, and I get that. I'm certainly not diminishing that at all. But what I'm saying is, to have this rage because you're live streaming your own sort of telethon and expecting people to be, phoning in their donations and phones aren't ringing, and all of a sudden you're taking it out on people. And and even then it's like, what about the people so that guy that did give $5.06, now you're basically like spitting on what he gave you as though that was nothing. And well, then I'd take that back then. I would cancel that money or get a refund or however you work it. You ungrateful asshole. Then, hey, I don't need the $5, but you know what? I'll gladly take it back and I'll just go and waste. I'll go and put it in a slot machine and just fucking waste the $5 so you don't get it, is what I'll do. But it's so weird because so the one with Betty Jo Sue and the y'all my kinfolk and whatever, you can hear her kids in the background as well. So that was another thing that I was thinking is, okay, here we go. So she's going to be raising her kids to the exact same fucking thing. It's Tuesday night on the homestead, and we're gonna just maybe walk behind me with a limp, girl. Walk behind me with a limp, and oh, carry that gun out of my pocket, like. Holy fucknards. Like, seriously. This might be the judgiest I've been on an episode in the last little while, and fuck it, I don't care. And, here's why I say that is, as I said, so going from somebody who financially struggled to then an incredible rebound, but you know how I did it? I worked my fucking ass off. Yes, I did. And like I said, I went and took a regular daytime job with a paycheck while still doing my stuff in the evenings, on the weekends, early in the morning, because do you know what I was doing? This is absolutely true. So I was still having a regular office job, right? And I was doing my radio thing. This was before it really took off and became a company. I would wake up at 6:05 in the morning. I would do, shower or whatever. I was on the radio, 6:25. 6:35. I was doing different stations. I was on one station, 6:25. The next station at 6:35. The next station at 6:45. Out the door at 6:55. I took a bus for almost an hour. On the bus, I was writing a newspaper column. I was writing maybe some entertainment headlines if there was a story going on that happened overnight. I had an hour to kill, so I was working on the bus. Then I would get to the actual office job, totally unrelated to the radio stuff. I would do that job. On lunch breaks or whatever it was, I would go and I'd be writing more. I'd be checking in with the celebrity headlines or, whatever it was, writing back to newspapers. I had that hour bus ride home. Now I'm writing more stuff. I'm getting things done. I come home. Now I had one dog at least at the time. I only had the one dog. And I'd come home, spend a bit of time with him, put some food maybe in the toaster oven for 30 minutes. I'd, play with the dog while that's cooking, bring my food into my office in my house, sit there, and from 7:30 or so on, I'd be working in the evening, and I might be live tweeting Bachelor or American Idol, and then, doing something else. And that was my fucking day for how many years until things really took off and I could quit that job, start my own company, hire staff, and here we are all these years later. So, again, I'm not mocking the financial hardship. I'm saying you can turn it around if you want to. If you choose to be a social parasite, if you choose to be a waste of space and a burden to taxpayers, then fuck you. And I have no sympathy for people like that. I really don't. I mean, and I do know people who, not to the extent of doing this online begging thing for money, although they might, I don't really pay attention. But I mean, I do know some people who, make up medical conditions or they'll say anything to basically get out of having to work and to just be able to collect assistance. And one of my cousins did that. You know what? And I'm going to talk about that. He died, so it's fair game. And he fully admitted it. And we actually kind of got into a fight over it one time. Oh, we're going to take a break. Well, look at that. We're going to leave on a cliffhanger note. Look at that tease. And I'll finish the story when we come back on The Scribble.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
JB here on The Scribble. All right, so I'm going to talk about the parasite cousin that I had who's now deceased. And we didn't always have a strained relationship, but when I found out how he was living and what he was doing, things definitely took a turn for the worse. Now, I don't involve myself in people's lives. I really don't care what people are doing. And so in my family, I know, I'm not super close with, cousins and all the other extensions of the family. But I generally know, what they do for a living. Do I know the name of the company or whatever? Always no. But I mean, I know that this person works in accounting or this person is in marketing or, whatever. But, I don't know the specifics. We're not that close. But I had a cousin. He passed away about, it was during Corona. So 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. And he was, so actually, let's rewind about 10 years. He was fired from almost every job that he had. He didn't like taking direction. He was, he was always heavy throughout his life. So he was, a big eater, a drinker. That's what I remember from family get-togethers. And he worked in restaurants and would be in the kitchen. So, of course, around the food all the time. And that's where he met his wife. So they worked together at the same restaurant. They both got fired. He's one of those people who will run his mouth. He doesn't have the filter. He doesn't have the, he's thinking something, he's saying it. And if it's to the boss or if it's to a coworker and it's going to get him in trouble, well, fuck you, I don't care. And then you know what happens next, right? Pack your shit and get out of here. That's what happens. And so eventually he stopped working. He just, and then he kind of did the whole thing, kind of like the parasites I was just talking about, which is now I'm just going to find kind of any excuse to not work, and I will find, ways to milk the system, really. So he and the wife were both fired from the same restaurant, and they were renting houses. They'd never owned a property. And then they go and have a kid. So this is one of those things where you kind of sit there and go, okay, wait a second here, hold on. The income is pretty much a no because it's social assistance, which is, barely enough to kind of get by. And again, you're renting a house in a really dumpy area of the city. And now you're going to go. Now, I realize that the government does give you money when you have a kid, so maybe that's what they were kind of banking on, right? Oh, the kid's not going to cost us anything because the government's going to pay for the kid. To a point. So they have the kid, and of course the family members on the sidelines are, raising their eyebrows going, oh shit, what the hell are they doing? Well, you know what? It's their life, so, whatever. It just sucks, they're going to bring a kid into it and see how that goes. So the years go on, and neither of them is working, and then the kid is old enough to go to school, and they are raising this kid to basically watch, mom and dad just stay home all day. They never did have a job ever when the kid was around. And so also at 5 years old, the kid was throwing tantrums. He didn't want to wear different kinds of shoes. He just wanted to wear green rubber boots. They had to be this pair of green rubber boots. And he got his way. This kid got his way. He wouldn't eat anything that had a temperature. So anything that was hot or cold, he would not eat. So let's say a bowl of soup. No. Chicken fingers would have to be just neutral. They couldn't be warm. They couldn't be nothing out of the fridge. You wouldn't eat anything that, so something like a pizza basically had to be already like crustified and, I'm trying to think, have that like skin on it almost, right? When it gets, the cheese is just kind of like solid. So nothing with a temperature. And I remember seeing the wife, post on Facebook one time, basically asking for suggestions if there was anything that would keep the food at non-temperatures. So let me explain that. So, a thermos will keep your drink cold, right? It'll keep your ice or whatever, or it'll keep your soup hot for 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. So she wants something that is essentially temperature controlled, that you can, like a container that you can just kind of put it in, that if the kid is outside for 30 minutes walking, that the sandwich inside won't get cold, right? So an insulated, or an isolated or insulated, I don't even know. You know what I'm saying though, right? So basically like a sealed proof kind of thing so basically like a thermos, but for just solid foods, really. So think about like putting a hot dog in a thermos. So just a room temperature hot dog in the thermos. It's going to be temperature protected, right? Because it's in this. So she's asking for something like that. And I just kind of thought, oh my God, you're explaining that your kid is this fucking picky. That actually makes you look like a terrible mother. That doesn't make your kid look picky. That makes you look really fucking stupid that you don't have control over this kid. Nevertheless, she's still alive, but I haven't named her. So, and really, what is she going to sue me? Good. You know what? She'll end up paying our legal bills, and we'll really take her to the cleaners. Fuck you. I just don't have respect. It's one thing to, fine if you don't want to make anything of your life, but don't make me support you, or don't make the others around you, don't make the community support you when I see that you are a waste of space. You're a fucking waste, and it's gonna sound harsh, but you know what? Better that my cousin's dead because he wasn't taking care of his responsibilities, and he was, really, he had 2 heart attacks, he had all this stuff and whatever, and it's like, well, I'm just paying for you to exist. You don't get off the fucking couch. His mom, my aunt, almost basically applauded him because there was a picture of him walking to the park one day, a grown man walking to the park one day, and he's getting applause for that, and I thought, how sad is your fucking life, you asshole? Like, seriously. Again, I'm talking about a family member. Yes, I am. But I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of that family member. He's dead now. So again, I mean, good riddance. But, and this is the funny thing. This is not just me being a heartless asshole. This was kind of the consensus in the family. The funeral turnout was very, very poor because people did not like this guy. So anyway, the kid doesn't eat temperature-controlled food or whatever, and I was just like, holy fucking God. And then I hear from one of my cousins that the wife, the mom of the kid, she would go grocery shopping with my cousin's parents, so my aunt and uncle. So they would offer to take her because they had no car. They didn't even, my cousin couldn't walk either. He was at this point over 300 pounds, close to 400. He died at almost 500 pounds. More on that in a second. So she would go grocery shopping with her in-laws, and wouldn't you know it, I forgot my purse at home. So, of course, Grandma and Grandpa have to buy the grandson the groceries, right? I mean, come on. Happened a second time. Oh, by the way, sorry, this wasn't from a cousin. This was actually from my aunt telling this story. That's right. So my own aunt was bitching about her kid. So let me also just preface the story by saying that. That's right. It was my aunt who said that the wife would go grocery shopping and would always mistake. So the second time it happened, okay. Third time, apparently my aunt said, I turned back around and we went to go back to the house to get her purse. Yep. So they drove a few blocks and basically said, Mom, do you have your purse? Oh, where's your purse? Do you have your wallet? Oh, I forgot it. Turn around. We're going home. We'll get it. And then my aunt said, she didn't buy as much that day. So again, you have to look at that and go, these are people. And so at that time, she was older than my cousin. My cousin would be 40. He was a year younger than me. So he would be 42 or 43 now. She's a few years older, so she's probably close to 50 now. So when all this happened, she would have been in her early to mid 40s. So again, you look at something like that and just go, you're a woman in your 40s. You're a wife and a mother. And you're pulling that kind of shit with your in-laws, with your mother-in-law, your father-in-law. How do you feel okay doing that? How do you not just feel to me, that's not being, and this isn't me being sexist, but that's not a woman. That's not a fucking woman at all. Just as I would say to and I did say that about my cousin, that's not a man. It's not a man. It's not about gender. It's not about anything. That's not a fucking adult. That's not a fucking grown-up. That's not a parent. Fuck you. Now you're taking advantage of your in-laws. Like, that's so fucking disgusting. That's disgusting. And, of course, wonderful that my aunt and uncle do that because, that's their grandson. They're not going to go say, make him starve. But, what a horrible situation to put your relatives and your family in. It's gross. It's disgusting. Now, like I said, totally different if all of a sudden, I know that when the pandemic hit, people lost their jobs, companies closed. That's not your fault. I get it. And I know that people were struggling then. Absolutely, people needed help. I am not downplaying that at all. Let me be very clear on that. These are parasites that are sitting at home. And let me just keep giving you more stories so you don't feel bad for these people. There was, during the Olympics, curling, the winter sport, curling was on TV. Or it was supposed to be on TV. So my cousin woke up early. He apparently wanted to enjoy his tea. And the TV network, so in Canada it was TSN, on your TV it'll show you the TV schedule, right? The grid, it'll show you the channels and what's on at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, right? So he woke up early, he wanted to enjoy his tea. So he takes a picture of the TV, by the way, not on an entertainment unit. Their television sat on a floor in the living room, okay? So he takes a picture of the TV that shows that it says curling, but obviously on the picture you can see that it's another sport. I don't remember what it was, but he wanted to watch curling. And his Facebook post was, fucking TSN, goddamn, blah, 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 just wanted to wake up and enjoy my tea. And I thought, wow, like when you posted that, I'm looking at the time going, people were probably driving to work at that time, or people were, just, doing something. And that was so maddening in your day. That just pissed. You just want the poor guy. He wanted to wake up, drink his tea, and watch his fucking curling. And TSN, goddamn network, can't even get there. And you just go, dude, do you know how petty you look? Do you, really? Really? And would you think the TV network is going to respond to an unhinged post like that? One thing to ask them a question. Oh, hey, TSN, is it supposed to be da-da-da-da? No, you're going to make it seem like your day was ruined because you couldn't wake up, enjoy your tea, and watch curling. I would wish that a TV network would respond and say, get a fucking job, you loser. Or look at his picture and go, lose some fucking weight, you asswipe. Just, see, again, So, should I tell the sex story about him? Oh my god! All right, this is a whole other episode already at this point. But maybe time is going to get to that. So let's get back to his mooching. All right. So one of the things that he liked to do on social media was always just rant and bitch about everything, just everything. They would just nothing would be right. Right now, but the interesting thing was they would, so they would go to restaurants and then they would do this rant about the restaurant. And you're kind of sitting there going, wait a second, you don't have money. So who's paying for that? Or how did you. So there was, they got a smoker in their backyard to do meat and food. So we're always seeing pictures of the food and things that they were posting, or that they were cooking for that day or whatever it was. And as I said earlier, they kind of lived in a shitty neighborhood. So he posts this food and, it smells so good and whatever. And it's like, dude, and again, just like the wife is 400 pounds, he's 500 pounds. The last thing that you want to be doing on social media, is talking about eating, day and night. So he posts about the food. And then an hour or two later, he goes on this rant because the meat was stolen from the smoker in their backyard. And then the funniest thing of all this was one of my friends saw a rant that was posted on like a city blog kind of, there's some cities where it'll have like the asshole drivers or parkers or whatever it is, and then it'll show different. So there's one about like unhinged people, going on rants or just the craziness in the city. So my friend actually sent it to me and I'm almost dying going, oh my God, that's my cousin. Because I just saw that post of his the other day. And so she's laughing going, oh my God, can you believe this? And I thought, oh my God. So I didn't want to go and say like, I'm related to him. Yeah. So then he was pissed about that. I'm saying like, you're advertising your lunch in the backyard. I mean, okay. So one of the other big rants that he went on about was how the heating costs were going to be going up. And so he posted this big rant. So Manitoba Hydro is the electricity and the gas company, whatever, in Manitoba. So the rates were going up. And so one of the things that he was ranting about was how it goes up, but his assistance or whatever the hell he gets doesn't go up equally, right? So do you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't balance. Now he's going to be coming up short, right? Because the cost of that went up. So he goes on this rant, and I don't know, I was just in a mood one day. I just kind of felt like a dick or sassy or something. And I said, there's ways of, kind of like making money for yourself and kind of just, providing for yourself. So then he said, no, I have, I've got, conditions, I can't work, and I've got this, and I'm on disability and whatever. And I said, right, but at the same time, there's ways to, work from home. So this was now during the pandemic. And I said, people are doing work from home jobs, or, there's a way you can create a blog and you can, get ad revenue and things like that. And so he basically goes and says, well, any of that would be deducted from my benefits and whatever, so it's a wash. And I thought, so you're making excuses for not providing for yourself. So you're not even trying. There's no interest. You've already completely closed that door to providing for yourself. And what's sadder is that this is playing out in the comments of your post. So basically you're telling everybody that you're wanting to be a social parasite and just use the system, and you have every excuse to not, earn even a bit of spending money for yourself. Oh, so it'll be deducted from your handout. Oh, no. Well, but still. So what? It means you have to file taxes? Okay, well, get with the program. Everybody else does. So then we'd gone back and forth a couple of times, and I said, it's doable, so you can't walk or whatever. So you can plant yourself on the couch with your phone. You can start writing blogs. You can do sports commentary. You're so fired up about the Olympics, whatever. So then the wife comments and says, you don't know the full story. You don't know what you're talking about. So maybe some people should just mind their own business. Well, honey, I know more than you think, okay? Because I talk with your mother-in-law, I talk with your other relatives, and we know the story about you guys, okay? Okay. So I was tempted. Oh, and then my cousin fires back and says, I've got anxiety and depression, and this isn't good for my heart, and I blah blah blah, and this is why I can't. And so he's getting himself worked up, and this is why I can't, and this is why I can't. Okay, calm down there, killer. All right, see this now you're making excuses, right? Now you're blaming me. See, right? It's never his fault. It's never something that he's done. It's never his problem. But I'm the bad guy, right? I'm getting him worked up now. Now I'm firing up his anxiety. I'm firing up his depression. This is why. This is why I can't work. This is why. Yeah, settle the fuck down, okay? Settle the fuck down. Because here's the thing. You weigh 500 fucking pounds. You already made public excuses as to why you don't even want to try to earn $10 for yourself. You want handouts. You're going to complain about the rates going up. You've got a child that society is basically raising. So fuck you and your depression and your anxiety. Fuck you and your depression and anxiety. Because, like I said, you're a parasite to we're paying for everything. You're freeloading off the system. You're basically admitting that you don't want to provide for yourself. So fucking die already. Die. Again, like I said, it's like, this is kind of a harsh thing, but it's like, what is the point of living? What is the point? I realize that, yes, it's going to hurt that your kid's going to have to grow up without a dad. What kind of a dad were you in the first place? And let me explain why I have this attitude about it as well. Okay. Let me tell you, because there's more to this story. So this was still while I was on the radio, hosting my radio shows. And we were in between tapings, actually, because I don't have my phone with me when we're doing shows. So I had just, we had a schedule change. So we were in between shows, and then we had a celebrity interview that was calling in between the shows. So it didn't actually happen during the show like it normally would. So I come into the studio here, in the studio, and I have my phone with me because it was a schedule change. I also needed to be available if the publicist had to get a hold of me. So they've got my phone as a backup number, so I have my phone with me. So I'm sitting in, we were just about to do the call, and then I get a message from this dead cousin while he was still alive. He wasn't texting from beyond the grave. Now, I'd never had a conversation with him digitally like that at all. Like he Facebook messaged me. And so I thought it strange because, here's a message from so-and-so. So of course that piques my interest. I want to know what's up. He's, like I said, in the years that I've been on Facebook, never messaged me. I've had a conversation with him at family get-togethers, but we've never spoken outside of that. Like I've never had an interaction with him that way. So I was sort of interested in that. And so I do my thing, for the radio, whatever, and then I go and message him. It was about an hour later, or a little bit longer, because like I said, and then we had another show to tape. So a few hours later anyway. So I write back to him. And he had said to me basically that he's pansexual, and he wants to know how to tell the family. And I said, well, why do you need to tell the family? Like, what is that? That's a sexual thing. It's one thing to come out as gay because now I'm going to be dating a man and I'm going to be bringing a man to family gatherings and I'm going to marry a man. So that's something that you admit to. That's something you acknowledge, right? You I don't know, proclaim that, if you will. And so I said, I don't know what that means. First of all, I still don't really know what pansexual is. But I said, but if it's a sexual thing, so does that mean that you're ending the relationship? Like you're married, so are you guys not together anymore or what? He's like, no, we're still together. And, it's kind of like an open, sort of like a marriage thing. Like, she can do things and, and I said, oh, okay, well, why would the family need to know about your sex life? Really, that's what it is. My family knows that I'm gay, but they don't know the sexual crap with my husband. They don't know, Jeremy's taking it up the chute, or, he likes being tied up, or he's, spanked with a cactus, or like, I don't, like, why would the family care about like you having an open? That's something you keep on the down low. If anything, you kind of want to keep that hush hush. So I don't know what's so, worthy of sharing. And so he then said, well, you know how the family is. And I said, no, I don't. I've never heard the family talk about sex stuff like that. So I don't exactly know why it would even come up in the first place. Nobody's ever, I don't know. I've never had a family member come up and ask me about gay sex. I've never had that. Like, I don't want to know about their straight sex and they don't want to know about my gay sex. We're family. That's what's kind of weird about it. So I said, I don't know that the family would care, but I don't know, why would you bring it up? And so he was expecting confrontation. He basically wanted to have a argument or a fight with people. Like, he was expecting to be thrashed and then be disowned or whatever. And I said, well, then if that's the case, like, why would you bother? I don't really understand why you would share that. I said, as long as you're not mistreating your wife or your kid, then why would as long as you're not endangering them, right? I mean, it's different if you're having strangers to the house and you're bringing some anonymous person over and your kid is in the other room. Yeah, the family's going to have a problem with that. Or, you're cheating on your wife. Yeah, the family's going to have a problem with that. But if it's just an open thing and, I mean, keep them away from your fucking kid, because that's a shithole move. If you're going to bring, you're endangering your kid, that is disgusting. And, So we go back and forth with, he's wanting, I said, like, I don't know. I don't really talk about my sex life with people. And that's not just a gay thing. That's just not what I do. And then out of nowhere, he's like, because sometimes you just want to suck a dick, right? And I thought, this is really weird. Like, oh, all right. So I was like, oh dear, I think is what my response was. I should bring it up. Like I said, I don't have my phone with me, but that was kind of the extent of the conversation. I said, I mean, you can do what you want. I mean, I don't really, it's up to you. I don't think that the family cares about sex life, and I don't really know that they, but good luck with that. So we wrapped up that messaging back and forth. And then we had a couple of shows that I was taping out of town. We'd done a travel show, I think it was. And so I was gone for a little while. And then I regrouped with one of my other cousins from that side of the family. And I said, by the way, I got this message. And so I tell her the story, and she's almost like shitting her pants going, holy God. Because I started it, I'm a broadcaster, right? So I'll do the tease. And I said, I got a message. Guess who's basically a swinger and is kind of playing the other side, if you know what I mean. And I left it at that for a little while. And so I go and explain this. And she's like, oh my God. And now, of course, she's got more questions than I had in that moment. Like I said, because I was also, I had a radio, I had other stuff to do in that day. So I wasn't really into the conversation. I was kind of creeped out by it anyway, right? So I'm talking with her, and she's saying like, well, like, how do they meet people? Or like, well, then what do they do? Like, do they go to the people's places? Is this like in cars? Like, what happens if he says that they don't have people over to the house? I said, I don't know, but I didn't, care to ask. So she's like, well, come on now. Like, fine. So I thought, okay, whatever. So I ended up messaging him. This was a few weeks later. And I said, hey, just, I got back into town. It was, what's been the, response? Like, what happened? What did people say? And I said, why don't we, like, let's just regroup. Like, let's do, let's do a video call, or let's chat or something. I don't have no interest in sitting and texting back and forth. It would be great because it'd be in writing. But I thought, if we can do an audio call, I'll just record it and play it for everybody after. So, he's not like, oh, I got to work tomorrow. I got to get up early. It's like, fuck, you don't do fuck shit. You don't do anything. So, am I interrupting curling? Is it on now? So, so we did a video call. I ended up going, oh, I also, because I'm an asshole, I have a very expensive house, and so I ended up going with, we have there's one room that has like kind of fancier artwork or whatever, so I made sure that I was kind of sitting in like the fancier room, and I had a big wine glass, and I kind of wanted to be like, I have a lot of money. It's funny because when I tell the story, I relive everything, not just what happened, but I remember, like, I relive going into the room, sitting there, moving things around. Like, so when I'm telling, yes, the story is about the cousin, but I'm thinking of all the auxiliary information of all the details that were going on around me. So, so the phone or the video connects, and he's kind of only showing like sort of half of his face. He was on the love seat, I think. And he, either the phone was just very close to him, or he wasn't even actually holding it. It was kind of just there, so I could kind of just see his face from time to time. And then I could hear the wife. She was, I guess, sitting on the couch across from him. So I just said, like, so what's been, like, did you tell people, like, what happened? What's been the response? And he said that nobody responded. And I was like, well, I didn't think so, really. I mean, like, So I said, do you told people directly or what? He's like, no, I posted something for Pan Pride? Not Pan Pride. I can't remember what it was. I don't know if it was for Pride Month or something, or it was like Pan Awareness Day or whatever the hell they call it. I don't fucking get it. But anyway, so he said he had posted something like wishing people like a Pan Pride or whatever the hell it was, and kind of just left it at that. And I said, yeah, that's good, because I mean, think about that. Would be like you going to a cousin and just, them coming to you and just talking about their sex life. The family doesn't do that. Sorry. We're not those southern people from, Billy Bob Joe Sue. Although he probably had about as many teeth as them. So, and like I said, diabetes, 2 heart attacks, just everything was wrong with him. So anyway, so as I'm talking to him, I said, so like, how does that work then? Is it like dating apps, or, and then you say that you're married? Like, what is it? Is it you like going to them, or them, you two as a couple going and meeting somebody, or, like, how does it go? And so he said, oh, we're just, it's still we're still new to us, but he's like, oh, there's like a website where you can post that you're, that you're into this, or you're looking for this, or you're, whatever it is, and then people will respond. I guess like a Craigslist ad or a personals ad, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. So it wasn't a dating profile that he had. It was something where you would, post things about yourself like that, or like a whatever. And so I said, oh, okay. But so again, nobody's though, like, coming to your house or anything, like when the kid's there, right? Like that's the, there's a safety thing there. Come on now, you can't be stupid. And he said, no, they don't come to the house. And I said, oh, so then, like, how do you, like, where do you go to meet people then? Like, is it that you both go to their place? Like, you feel safe doing something like that? Is that kind of... Now, again, you have to realize that I'm somebody, like, I've never hooked up in my life. So I've never just met somebody and then, like, 5 minutes later we're making out, and 10 minutes later, he's inside me. I'm a prude, and everybody who knows me will make fun of me on that. They know that already. So he said that there is... like not a sex house. I can't remember what he called it. It's, you rent a room. Somebody tell me what it is again. No, it'll come to me. Bathhouse. Thank you. So there's one that's a few blocks away from their house, and you can go and you would rent a room, and basically, so it's not a hotel, but you basically just go and, like, rent a room for however long, you do your thing. And this was the funny thing, because I remember I said that he was basically getting applause for, the strength to walk to the park with his kid. And I thought, so he has the strength to walk to a sex house. Because again, they don't have a car. He wouldn't probably take a bus. He's every excuse to not move, really. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so he complains about not being able to, like, walk to the end of the street or stuff like that. But for a sex romp, big dude can find his energy. So he said that, he's gone there, and I said, oh, okay, I guess, so that's kind of like in public, right? So I guess it's a little bit, safer than, going to somebody's house or whatever. I was trying to reinforce it that, that was a smart move. And so then he said, yeah, I just go with my keys, my phone, and my debit card. And I said, oh, okay, all right. I mean, like, I don't know, what else would you go there with? Would you take a laptop, a stereo, my headphones, my shoes, my, my electronics, my, my video games, it's a fucking, you're going there to bang and then leave. I don't know why would you go there with more? You basically saying, I take precautions so I don't get robbed. And I thought, the fact that that's even on your mind going to this place. So he said to me, my God, you see, now that he's dead and I've got the audio recording, there's a part of me that wants to just, but anyway. So he said that, one time he got together with this girl, and she basically got naked, and then they didn't even do anything, and she had just, fallen asleep. And I said, oh, okay. I said, that's kind of weird. I'm laughing. So later on, I was like, oh, that sounds like a hooker who's doing drugs. To me, just with the general information, she gets naked, she passes out, they didn't do anything. So chances are, she either didn't see what he looks like, and then they get together, and she's like, big dude is 500 pounds, gross, smelly, wheezing as he breathes, and I'm this tiny little, druggie, so how about I just do my drug shit, and I'm going to pass out so I don't have to deal with this, and here we go. Cuts her losses then. She doesn't make any money, but whatever, at least she doesn't have to, resort to that. And so I thought, that's interesting. So again, chances are she was a hooker. Excuse me, sex worker. They're correcting me to say sex worker. Fuck off. She's a hooker, okay? That's like anything about this episode has been politically correct, all right? We're how many minutes into this? We're almost an hour into this show. No, she was a fucking hooker, okay? That's what I'm calling it. And so I thought, okay, so that's also going to cost you money. So let's rewind here, okay? So wife forgets the purse, can't afford groceries. Any money's the heating bill's going up because Manitoba Hydro is upping the rates. But I've got room, and you pay admission to get into the sex house, right? And then you're going to pay for admission to the woman. Where does that money come from, though? Where does the money come from? So is your house going cold for 2 days? You're going to turn down, so that everybody's going to have to bundle up so that you could go and not bang a hooker? Not bang a drugged out, passed out hooker? Okay, perfect. Good. Yeah, glad I know how this works now. So this would be why you can see when I hear the tragic story. Oh, one more thing about him. Can I just do that? They're already saying no, but I'm going to do it anyway. So my mom's 60th birthday was, 60 or 65th. I don't remember. Either way. So we were having something at my parents' house in the backyard, and her birthday's in July, so it was outside in the summer, and everybody was there, and so everybody was kind of wondering where not everybody, almost everybody was there, but people were wondering where my aunt and uncle were, so his parents. And they, we were like, oh, I guess they're coming, we haven't heard otherwise, so maybe they're just running late or something, and so they do come late. And they had to go to a restaurant because my cousin fell in the parking lot when he was going to the car. And apparently we heard that he falls a lot in restaurant or business parking lots. And I looked at my brother right away and I said, he's trying to get a fucking lawsuit. He's trying to he'll go and say injury, or he'll go and say, gotta go see the doctor. Doctor, hurt my leg, can't do it. Get another extension of his benefits or whatever he's getting. And so when my aunt goes and says that he's always falling, she's making it sound like he's clumsy. I'm sitting here going, no, I fucking get it. I get it. Yeah. So he's either going to go for I got to get a doctor's note that I bummed my knee now, or my hip, or, fell, I can't, or, going to go to the restaurant and say, I fell in your parking lot, after the meal. And, it's always when he's leaving, right? Isn't that interesting? It's not when he's going in, it's when he's leaving the restaurant. And they would have no money or anything to sue anyway, right? So, I mean, I don't know what he's trying to get out of it. But yeah, so they were late because they had to go to get him off the ground or whatever it was from this restaurant, and then take him to the hospital. And then when they get to my parents' house, my aunt is just fuming because, we had to go. He's always getting a call, and he's falling again, and blah, blah, blah. So again, this is like, what kind of a life is that? Seriously. I'm going to say it one more time, and if you send me your hate mail, I really don't care. Like, dude, just fucking die already. I know that is such a horrible thing to say. You're not an influence on your kid. You're more into the swinger sex life, whatever. We don't see you being a parent anyway. So, you know what? Really? Horrible thing to say about a relative, okay, but, He didn't do anything to me personally, right? It's not like, I called him out for his, bullshit, and then I ended up getting blocked on his page, and, because I'm saying to him publicly, provide for yourself. I mean, you're making all these excuses to not do it. And then all these, and then you're going to, months earlier, you're telling me about going to a fucking whorehouse or going to, doing these things. So, part of me almost wanted to go and say, like, dude, you pay to go to a sex house. Why are you complaining about your heating bill going up? Then go and spend more time at the sex house then. Can they charge you rent there? I mean, how long do you, So this goes back to this whole, I don't want just this lazy society or this sense of entitlement that people have. And I realized this show was about panhandling online and these people, doing TikTok begging videos. And maybe they did this. I don't even know. But it just, at some point you kind of look at these people and go, this is just disgusting already. This really is disgusting. There are certain people that you should not have kids. Keep your fucking legs closed. Get yourself neutered. Whatever the hell you need to do to your bodies. Don't breed. Don't don't bring more kids into the world. Don't have a dog then that you can't afford or that's going to need medical bills that you already know you can't afford. Like, just don't do any of that shit. Why bring others into it? That's so selfish and so disgusting that you would do that. And then, like I said, there was that one hillbilly that you can hear the kids screaming in the background, and then she's telling them to shut up. And I just thought, you're doing this on a live stream. Like, you don't even seem like a compassionate mother at all. Like, it almost seems abusive. And so the fact that people have recorded these, though, I almost like turn this over to the police and go, look at what this woman is doing. She's like, I don't know how they're not embarrassed. They have no shame. And then, so just circling back to what I said at the top, then they're going to lash out and be angry that people aren't giving. And I just, like, get off your fucking lazy ass and do something. Really. That's not, I don't know. And when it's a nightly thing, because as I did see some of the same videos some of the same people in some of the videos, as though it's a nightly thing, or is that it's, weekly, or it's just kind of, might as well just go, not doing anything tonight, might as well live stream. And that's just so again, that's the equivalent of being in a city and going and sitting out on a street corner. Now, again, perhaps people do get more money doing it digitally online because it's just easier if you're on PayPal or whatever to just send money. And kudos to the people that do it. I mean, if it's your choice to do that. I mean, I wouldn't support shit like that. And again, it's not that I'm just some heartless asshole. Like I said, I realize that people do get into a financial pinch that's not their fault, and I'm understanding of that. But but again, just that whole I'm just gonna set up a camera and just go and it's I said it's like having a telethon for yourself, right? Remember back in the day, the Jerry Lewis telethon, or any of those, or those church shows that come on every Sunday. Like, here's the number to call and give us money. Like, for what reason though? Why am I'm watching it on TV and I'm gonna just give you money just because? I don't care if you're a fucking church or whatever the hell you are. I mean, everybody just wants your money. Everybody just gimme. Earn it for yourself. I gotta tell you, and just to wrap this up, because we are very, very over time, I said to my husband was out of town one day, and so I was talking with my cousin, and I was walking through my house, and I just remember looking, I was about to talk to my cousin. I'm walking around the house, and I just remember looking around, and I stopped, and I smiled. And I thought to myself, I did all this. Meaning, it was my hard work. Hours and thousands of hours. Tens of thousands of hours. Because, we're going on over 20 years and, however many, over 20 years. And so, to just, the house was quiet. And I remember going, yeah, this is mine. And there was such a good feeling about that. Like, it's one thing to get a big mansion because you won the lottery, right? So you win $5 million and you go and get the big house. Okay, fine. It's bragging because it's kind of like, hey, I didn't have to do anything for this money. Okay, awesome. Sure, fine. But there's just something so sweet about doing it for yourself, right? Like, just think about when you bought your first car, right? If it was money that you saved up. I just remember, right, that first car that you get, right? You're polishing it, you're washing it. You're not touching, you don't want you're picking off every little leaf that falls on it. And, you're very, because I paid for that. It's mine, right? This was my money that got it. And so that's how I am with I'm going to say it, plural, houses. We have 2 houses, both have pools. And again, I'm not bragging about that. What I'm saying though is I earned this. Like, these are mine because I worked my ass off. Relentlessly. I did not take no for an answer. When I was told no, that made me go twice as hard. Seriously, it really, really did. When I was applying for newspaper jobs, I was still in school. I hadn't finished school, and coincidentally, I didn't have a car, and I lived in my parents' basement. My mom heard the fax machine. I was applying for a job in Alberta, and so she heard the fax machine. Beep, 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 beep. She came downstairs, and she asked me what I was doing, and I said, just applying for a job at a newspaper. Why are you, nobody's going to hire you. You're not done school, you don't live there, you don't have a car, and then I still hear it. Why don't you just give it up already? That was my moment. That was the defining moment. Why don't you just give it up already? Nope. That was it. That was it. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. That was the moment. Now you'd think, coming from a parent, that would crush your feelings, right? That would discourage you. That would go, yeah, I'm just not good enough. That was my fuck you moment. It absolutely was. Why don't you just give it up already? I'm in my early 20s. I haven't even, lived yet. I haven't even had a quote unquote career. I've had jobs in retail or whatever. I haven't had a career. You're already telling me to give up. I was passionate about writing. I was writing professionally in high school. High school, I had paying writing jobs with the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, so the public broadcaster, the federal government basically, and the Winnipeg Police Service. Yeah, working, for the city. And I was doing their internal newsletter. Yeah, so I had 2 jobs as a kid. So that's what I'm going to be doing in my career. I knew early on what I wanted to do. You to say, why don't you just give it up already? Fuck you. And I don't care that's my mom. Fuck you. A mother should know better. My mom worked at a school for 30-some years. That's how you're going to encourage kids? Nope. So that was my motivation. Truly, that was my absolute motivation. Why don't you just give it up already? I will show you. And look at what ends up happening. Years later, best-selling book, syndicated radio shows, Hollywood red carpets, celebrities on my phone. Look at how it all went. Retired at 39. I think I did okay. 2 houses, 2 pools. How many businesses? How many companies do I own? There you go. And so that's, just like I said, to even just do that highlight reel there makes me go and say, yeah, I deserve the houses that I have. This isn't luck. This isn't being blessed. This isn't any of that shit. This was goddamn hard work. Yep, hard work. I don't know what the problem is with that newer generation or those hillbillies in the South that are, I just need $105 for some groceries or my Amazon wish list. I didn't even know what an Amazon wish list was until I saw somebody have that, buy me cat food and paper towels and whatever. And I'm sitting there going, I'm sorry, you can put a shopping list on Amazon and people will send you crap? I'd never heard of that before. Really? Yeah. So we're way out of time. I know they're yelling at me. Okay. Say that again, Bonnie. What did you say? Most politically incorrect show ever. Well, you know what? We'll see what happens. I'm just, hey, it's a free world. I'm allowed to, say that. And am I judging people? Well, you put it out there. That's the thing, right? You put yourself out there. You go on your rants. You bitch and complain about stuff on people are going to have an opinion either way. You can't just, allow the comments that support you and encourage you, right? There's going to be negative too. I'm allowed to disagree with you. That's why then disable the comments, right? Then shut off the comments if you don't want to hear people. Simple. But don't go and say that, I don't know the full story or I'm bullying or whatever. Well, you know what? He puts it out there. Not everybody's going to agree with him. That's a guy who, tells off bosses and gets fired. He runs his mouth. So why isn't it okay for somebody to challenge him, right? Tell me your thoughts. Wow, that was a 45-minute story about my cousin. All right. And his sex life and just, yeah. So, the email address, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com. Live at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning into this supersized Scribble. We almost need a sound effect for that now. They don't happen very often. They happen when there's something very kind of detailed to talk about. And what's funny is that this cousin story wasn't even meant to be in the show, but ended up being the dominating story. And isn't that delicious, though? Isn't that fucking great? Sad that he's dead, to maybe some people. But, by the way, can I just say, at the funeral, she had some bull dyke biker chick with her arm around her in the front row beside her at the funeral service. So let me just be clear on that. So husband died, is cremated, and you got some fucking bull dyke sitting beside you at the funeral. She's the one comforting you and consoling you. Yeah. So let's think about that rebound very quickly, how that happened. Okay? And on that note, we're going to hear from so many people in the hate mail. I love it. But I'm sort of like Sophia Petrillo from Golden Girls. I'm at that age where it's like, I don't fucking care. I don't care. It's not going to hurt my feelings. You can say, that I'm a horrible person for believing those things or saying those things, but I tried, right? I tried helping him by saying, you could try to do this. You could maybe make some money this way. No. I'm just going to get handouts, whatever. Well, okay, then. Let's see how that works for you in your urn, wherever you are now. Okay. What a happy note to end on. So again, the email address live@jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up The Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter @The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.